SuperSport's spectacular SA20 coverage takes you right into the action. SuperSport's broadcast of the SA20 is proudly brought to you by pineapple.co.za.
Glorious summer's day in Paarl as we welcome you to match day 4 of the Betway SA20. It's Paarl Royals hosting the Joburg Super Kings. The crowd has been coming in for the past 2 hours and they're set for a cracking encounter here in their hometown. You can see them all trying to gather some of the shade. And right now it's time to go out to the middle to Pami Mbangwa for the toss with the two captains.
Yes, it's just about time. Many people here and interested, of course, in what happens here at the toss. Let me introduce all the people that are here. First of all, Mr. Harry Pinaar is here, overlooking things as the match referee. He stands next to the trophy over there, which everybody is playing for, and hopes that they'll be there for the final game to actually contest it. Faf du Plessis is captain of the Joburg Super Kings, and David Miller is captain of the Paarl Royals. Dave, you've got the coin?
Tails. Tails is the coin.
What is it?
Tails it is.
It's tails. You win, Faf. What are you going to do and why?
Well, we're going to have a bat. Yeah, obviously day game, just trying to get use of it. Looks like a good pitch. It doesn't change much here anyway, but just want to have a bat first.
Tell me what was in your mind with regard to selection, what you had to weigh up and come to in terms of your team.
Lazard Williams comes in today for support. So I just feel like, you know, that once again he's probably one of the better death bowlers in the domestic game. So just make sure we got some more firepower even at the back.
And as far as addressing things from the previous game, what is it that you're addressing today?
Yeah, I think with the previous game, obviously you saw there was a cluster of wickets that fell. But the pitch was a little bit stoppy there in that first 45 minutes of the match. So you can't read too much into that. And then I thought from there we batted beautifully. And then with the ball, you know, Quinny played really well. So for me, it's just how we responded to the two challenges we faced and did that beautifully.
Do you have a number in mind when you come here, particularly to Paarl?
Not really. I think the most important thing is just assessing while you play and then make those decisions as the game goes on.
Okay, all the best today.
Thank you.
David, do you mind the fact that you've got a chaser score here?
No, it's much of a muchness here at Paarl, but we probably would have batted first as well. So yeah, we're going to put the runs on the board.
How much do you guys look into the statistics with regard to what happens at games at particular venues?
I suppose as the tournament goes on, it might get a little bit slower, so definitely we'll start looking a little bit more at the stats, but at the end of the day, you've got to execute your skills. So yeah, we've got to start well with the ball and put them under pressure.
What have you done with your team, and does the fact that you're having to bat second change your thinking in any way?
No, not too much. We don't overcomplicate it too much, but Evan Jones comes in today, and as well as Lungi Ngidi, so really excited to have the two big men back.
Okay, all the best today.
Thank you. Thanks, Pami.
So the story from the middle then is that it is the Joburg Super Kings that have won the toss, and they've decided that they will bat first. Right, now a look at the surface, and Sean Pollock is alongside here. Sean, good afternoon to you first of all.
Yeah,
your thoughts with regard to what you see first of all?
Well, when I saw the surface, I thought this is a fantastic grass covering. I thought it's going to play pretty well. And then I was thinking to myself, but what would I do first as a captain? I thought, oh, I actually want to have a bowl first, have a roller on it, and then I think it'll play better in the second innings. But then both captains said they would have batted first, so what do we know?
Yeah, and I ask about the stats with David, because in looking at the stats in the last 10 games, I think 160 is an average score, and 8 of the 10 games won by the team batting second. So it says bat second, and yet they still kind of throw all of that out the window. Why do you reckon that is?
Yeah, I think if I just go down, I'll just show you that you can see the nature of this grass covering that's here. It's very dry, so it's almost like a little bit like a straw. So I think initially you get the fast bowlers with the seam, it might nip around, but then we'll see a lot of cutters, and I think the spinners are going to get some assistance as well. That's why I'm not 100% convinced of batting first, but the stats would suggest that chasing is going to be easier, and I think that could also be down to the fact of people not knowing what a good score is. They're not sure how much they have to post, maybe going too hard, and then often the team batting second, it's an easy chase because they're aware of everything that's on the go.
Speak about conditions in Paarl particularly, and you know, with regard to the field and what it is that teams must pay attention to when they come here to Boland.
The ball pack check says it's very hot and it's burning. It's a challenge here because it's so dry. It's very hot. It's the outfield in general is quite slow. If you hit it in the air, it's kind of plugs. If you go along the ground, it's a little bit quicker. But it's a big ground, and often the bowlers like bowling here because they've got something to work with. It's a big hit to these big boundaries, and if they don't get it right, the batters, then they can sometimes get themselves. Also, the key is running between the wickets. Lots of 2s and 3s on offer.
Spin?
Definitely. So dry, even with this grass cover, it's got to purchase.
Okay, we'll look forward to a good one here. We'll look forward to a good one here because the conditions are pretty good. It's hot, and as far as comfort is concerned, it's challenging, but we expect these two teams to be competing quite well. Let's get the update then on who are in the 211s. Hayes?
Yeah, thanks, Paarl. I'm up here with Darren Sammy, just having a bit of a look at the teams. And Darren's, he's hot. He's really hot on these boys, so he's going to take over the Joburg Super Kings. Darren, where you go?
Yeah, that's the team I picked to win the tournament. Again, Captain Fab du Plessis leading his charge, winning the toss and batting first. Last game, they will want to work on the stats, but look, in the middle over period, you have Ferreira and Shepherd. How brilliantly did they play in the last game, and they'll be looking to post a score of 170 plus, and to back it up with Joseph and Garton and Pangiso when they bowl after.
Righto, let's have a look at the boys, the Paarl Royals, the home team. Now, I really like these guys. I'll tell you why. Because the two guys at the top, Butler and Roy, I think are going to be seriously special when they get their chance to bat. So they've covered bases, and that's where I want to go with my assessment of this team. They've covered bases at the top against the new ball. Yes, it doesn't matter if there's a bit of spin around the place either, because Butler is an extraordinary cricketer for starters. In the middle, they've got power hitters. Villas is someone who works the ball a little bit more, but he's a very good hitter of the ball, as is Morgan when he's going, but Miller's going to be key. And then we look at Ngidi right at the back with a new ball. He's going to be handy, and he's a wicket taker with a new ball. But let me tell you that a left-arm wrist spinner is the most effective bowler in T20 cricket on this venue, and they've got Shamsi there, so he's going to be key also. So I think this is a really nicely balanced lineup. Right, Kaz, let's go back to you.
Hayes, thanks very much. It's an absolutely brilliant atmosphere building up here in Paarl. The tickets have been selling really well. And if you look at the action that we've had since day one, there's no surprise that families and young children and friends are turning up in their numbers to support South Africa's newest cricket competition here. And I'm so excited to be alongside one of your favorite cricketers, the legendary Herschel Gibbs, joining us in the build-up this afternoon. I'm allowing you the umbrella today, legend, because it is absolutely baking out here, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Cass. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone that's joined us for yet another enthralling encounter, I'm sure. Just have to protect the melon. You know, it's 40 degrees outside, and you know, when there's no covering, it's even about 5 degrees warmer. So, yeah, 3 intriguing games so far in the competition. I'm sure this one is going to be as hot as the weather it is today. So, looking forward to Paarl Royals bouncing back and hopefully getting their first win in front of their home crowd.
Yeah, they'll want to bounce back when they, in that opening game against MI Cape Town, they were down in a bonus point loss for them, really. And then, of course, we went off to Durban, and it looked like Durban Super Giants would get across the line at home, but it was the Joburg Super Kings that then come here to Paarl, riding high, looking for back-to-back wins. But how tough will it be for Paarl Royals to lose the game here, and suddenly they'll find themselves on the back foot, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, T20 is a lot about momentum, you know, and if you get 1 or 2, you know, losses under the belt, especially first up, then, you know, there's generally a little bit of, you know, a bit of sad, I wouldn't say sadness, but, you know, the morale of the squad in general, then, you know you've got to start making up ground, you know, with compared to the other teams. So, like I said, you know, it's a fresh start in front of your home crowd, and I'm sure they, you know, want to lift the intensity from ball one and just do things better than they did at Newlands.
Well, that bonus point win really putting MI Cape Town in a very strong position, but matches come in thick and fast. You've really got to manage yourself and your resources as well.
Yeah, you do, and you know, that's where obviously you look at your squad, and obviously you always play conditions. You know, the Fuffers, they've obviously won the toss and decided they're going to bat. Looks an absolute belter, good covering of grass. So I'm expecting, you know, a high-scoring game.
Joburg Super Kings, we mentioned that massive win in Durban. Faf du Plessis also sounding confident at the toss today. And you just get a sense that the young guns are feeling the energy of this competition, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity. I mean, I wish we had this sort of opportunity maybe 30 years ago. But, yeah, you know, to play against some, you know, World Cup winners, T20 winners, 50-over, you know, World Cup winners, can only do our cricketers, young cricketers good, even the older ones as well. And yeah, and I mean, I encourage them to sponge off them as much as they can. But yeah, it's just a wonderful stage, huge opportunity, you know, to put your name on the biggest of stages.
Well, if you're over the age of 18 and you're here in Paarl, I hope they're situated well. The Betway Catch a Million competition has already got 2 winners to share the million. Now, will we see more here in Paarl with those big hits?
Well, I think they're being exceptionally generous. You know, the guy that maybe that took it in Durban, I thought he could have just sent an SMS and say, guys, thank you very much, but I'd like to claim the prize. But be it as a main, it's a team game, and hopefully there'll be a few more. I must say, I've been very impressed. You know, catching it with soft hands, like the 2 gentlemen that did, one at Durban and one in Port Elizabeth last night, was rather tasty, I might say.
Well, 2 lovely catches that we've seen. Remember, it's got to be a clean catch, no juggling. And of course, if you have a Betway account, your proceeds are doubled. So how very exciting that the fans get to win as well in the Betway SA20. So those are the T's and C's. And remember, clean catch. We're watching. Everyone's watching from around the world. That's the QR code. You can scan it for all the details in this Betway Catch a Million competition. Play gets underway at 1:30 here in Paarl. As I said, fans are streaming through the gates, and we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more insights from our commentators.
It's the card that cuts prices. At Pick n Pay, get 1.5-litre Coca-Cola Original, 4 for only 58 Rand when you swipe. And Jacob's Instant Coffee 200-gram or 230-gram refill for only 98 Rand each when you swipe. Cut prices with your Smart Shopper card at Pick n Pay.
We're made of stars, and when a champion is needed, we shine. The UEFA Champions League. Every glittering moment on SuperSport.
The women take center stage.
If you're ready to play, you better come this way. Got our game faces up to the top. We're headed. What a shot! Play on, come on, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. Glorious! What a story! What a World Cup!
Turn it up.
for the ICC Women's T20 World Cup in South Africa. Tickets available online.
Sia Khaleesi.
Khaleesi's rise from poverty to become the first black Springbok captain has brought with it heroic status.
When the opportunity came, he was ready.
With Sia being captain, it had a huge meaning for South Africa, for black people.
I am so proud of you.
You make the country happy. We want to say we love you, Sia.
As a black captain for the first time led the Springboks, 28-year-old Sia Khaleesi rose to the peak of a sport long associated with apartheid.
It was quite tough. I was quite tough.
Paarl Royals hosting Joburg Super Kings on day 4 of the Betway SA20. It's glorious blue skies here at Boerland Park, and I've been convinced I need an umbrella. It's absolutely baking out here, especially standing next to Herschel Gibbs in his executive salmon shirt. Well, under the shade and looking very comfortable among the fans, Pami Mbangwa now alongside Chris Morris.
Yeah, it's nice here, isn't it? And, this is fast becoming favorite position. We had a pretty good one actually in Durban as well. And tell me about the view, Chris. What do you reckon?
Yeah, they don't come much better than this. I think a couple of beverages would have been quite nice just to cool everything down with the steaming heat we got here. But
I did see something on social media where Hirsch we're sitting together with Hirsch, and someone said the only thing that's kind of missing is what you're saying. You know, sitting there commentating, and it'd be pretty difficult. It'd be pretty difficult with the mics here. This tells us a lot, that it is a hot day. It's baking. Absolutely everyone is putting sunscreen on because it's a hot one in an afternoon game here in Paarl. Right, now, let's talk Paarl Royals. What are they addressing from previous game? A couple of changes that they've made as well. I suppose Lungi Ngidi comes in, makes a big difference. Evan Jones as well. What are your thoughts?
yeah, look, I think the biggest thing that was lacking from them in the last game was probably just partnerships. I mean, they've got Josh Butler up front, who's playing incredibly well at the moment. He got some runs, but they were just lacking those big partnerships to get the big score that they've got. And you know, I think once they can get those partnerships together, that's when they can put a competitive total together. But I think they'll first teething problems in the first game, getting the flow of a team, getting the rhythm of a team, and I'm sure they'll put up a better fight today.
Yeah, a good side with many a champion in the side. And then what is it, I suppose, that would get them going as quickly as possible, do you think?
Oh, look, I think it's just confidence. I mean, it's, you know, like I say, it's a new tournament first game. You want to find a rhythm of the way you're going to play the game, of how you're going to play with the team, and that'll take a lot of confidence from Josh. I mean, the man's been so successful in the last couple of months, and he's a guy that leads from the front. So feeding off each other's energy and feeding off the way you want to win and the way you want to play the game. And I think once that starts gelling together, you get a good rhythm.
Yeah, as far as the bowling attack is concerned, it's big to have Lungi Ngidi back in, a striker, but also the fact that there's experience, isn't it, with regard to playing here and international tournaments and T20 internationals.
Absolutely, you can't buy experience. We know that when it comes to a bowler specifically in this format, Lungi's got a bag of tricks. He can bowl those Yorkers eventually at the end, but that slower ball is going to be vital for him today, because it's a rather big field here in Paarl, and Lungi's very good at executing those slow balls, so he's a big player for them in this tournament and in this game.
Yeah, spoke spin with Sean Pollock at the pitch. He said it's going to spin here definitely, and we're in an afternoon game. Tell me of your experiences here with the sides that you've come and played with here, and how much of an impact it has.
It's a lot of teams that are street smart. I think Frisco Adams, he's one of the guys that's a local here. He's been playing his whole career here, and he'll know the conditions very well. For me personally, playing here, it's usually been a bit slow in the day games, and like I say, with Frisco playing, I like to call the balls that he balls, he calls them moles, because they don't bounce a lot, and that's what Paarl does. Paarl tends to keep it a little bit lower. So if you haven't played here a lot and you haven't played here often, or same thing, but if you haven't played here in a day or a night game, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, and you're going to have to take a little bit of a look as a batter.
Who gets up, mate? Who gets up today? Tell me.
Oh, it's difficult not to look past JSK after their performance they had in Durban. They've got the experience of Faf du Plessis, they've got the experience in the team, and they've taken a lot of confidence out of the last game. And specifically their bowling unit. Yes, we talk about the batters, how they did well, how they recovered. But for me, the way the fast bowlers shut that game out in Durban the other night was excellent, and there's a lot of confidence from them.
Yeah, well, let's hear about those guys from you guys. Cass, back to you. I hope you're okay under the umbrellas. It's nice here.
Nice one, Pommy. We still have to work with each other for the rest of the tournament. That's good. Listen, the Joburg Super Kings has got a really gun outfit, but before we even talk about them, your experience of playing in Paarl here, Hirsch?
Yeah, Cass, I think played a few ODIs here, couple against Pakistan. Not too sure who else I played. Obviously, a lot of games for Western Province or the Cobras, many moons ago, but managed to get a couple of runs. I think you get value for your runs here, for your shots. The outfield's quite quick. But you do take a pounding because you don't have any hair, you sweat like an absolute champion, so it's hot. You got to, take enough fluids in before you go into bat. But yeah, the wicket can be a little bit inconsistent, but I think the grass covering that we saw earlier should play a part, and it should be good enough for the 40 overs.
Let's talk Donovan Ferreira now, Joburg Super Kings. 27 for 4, but he came out there and he really put a show on for Durban.
He was the Super King that particular night. He took it to the bowlers. I think a couple of wickets fell early on, and guys a little bit, just a little bit hesitant. There wasn't much, pace to work with. And the spinners actually, Durban Super Giants actually, bowl really well. But Donovan Ferreira took it to them. He increased the tempo. Yes, he found a couple of edges, but they were more than happy with those edges at that stage. Other end, Faf played a perfect hand. Just showing the experience, allowing Donovan Ferreira to get in. And once Faf got out, Donovan Ferreira just clicked in and took it in. And once he's got hold of a couple, he then took it to another level completely.
Hirsch, thanks very much. Well, we're ready for an absolute humdinger here in Paarl. Paarl Royals up against the Joburg Super Kings in front of a packed house here. We absolutely cannot wait. Stay tuned for live action after this.
Stars, and when a champion is needed, we shine. The UEFA Champions League, every glittering moment on SuperSport.
Khaleesi's rise from poverty to become the first black Springbok captain has brought with it heroic status.
When the opportunity came, he was ready.
With Sia being captain, it had a huge meaning for South Africa, for black people.
I am so proud of you.
Make the country happy. We want to say we love you, Sia.
As a black captain for the first time led the Springboks, 28-year-old Sia Khaleesi rose to the peak of a sport long associated with apartheid.
It was quite tough. I was quite tough.
It's modern art.